Well, alright guys, how are y'all doing tonight? This is of course Luke back here with yet another album review. And yes, I know it's been a long fucking time since I've actually sat down and taken the time to do one of these. And I do greatly apologize for this, as I've been dealing with some other shit and I've been moving, of course. But I'm going to try to start back making videos again more frequently, so be looking forward to that hopefully. Chaos has a job, so I don't know how often he's going to be on here and all that kind of shit. But anyways, tonight we're going to be reviewing some pretty obscure, cold, fucking black metal with Nihil Invocation. Stange Ones Voicing Sorrows in My Dreams. It was released in June 20th, 2019 on Narbentange Production. And this is a one-man solo project from the United States. However, of course, the exact location is unknown. And of course, it's a pretty obscure fucking project, so I couldn't find very much information on them besides what I just gave you. So let's go ahead and get into the review, shall we? Dwelling within the thick fog of empty desolation and malignant shadow, Nihil Invocation has existed since 2016 as a bleak ritual spell that has only sought the awakening of dormant emotions in its listeners. Deep expressions of desperate ruin brought grinning to the fragile surface. Their first demos, Time and Death and Disease and Solitude, were the work of two creatures of the vast forest. Deathwalker handled the guitars and vocals, whilst his stalwart companion Ankoth handled the drums. Now these early works, whilst oozing with earnest expression of forsaken misery, were extremely derivative of classic early 90s second wave black metal bands such as Dark Throne, Judas Iscariot, Vlad Tepes, Moonblood, and Grossmaki, to just name a few. And they were wonderful places to seek black enlightenment, but it would not be until Nihil Invocation's first full album, Chthonian Twilight Ritual, that the project began to find its own leprous feet. Chthonian Twilight Ritual was the first album that Deathwalker handled all the duties for on his own, and it would essentially become Nihil Invocation. The shedding of Ankoth would not be missed, as Deathwalker refined the sound of the band for the better. The demo and EP that followed, The Valley's Green and Journey's Mourn, and Furthering the Depth of Lucid Madness, pursued the train of thought further, removing blast beats almost entirely from the whole composition, which allowed for a more sparse mix of the slower tremolo riffing, audible bass lines, and a perpetual atmosphere of despair. Now these pair of releases, as well as a compilation of the splits Nihil Invocation had participated up until this point, would lay the path for the project's greatest achievement in my opinion to this date, their second album, Stange Ones Voicing Sorrows in My Dreams. Now Nihil Invocation's second full offering, A Pensive Care, has more improved all aspects of the project's sonic delivery of desolate emptiness. The guitar works as sublime, relying far more on melodic tremolo riffs. They're sparse and slow in nature, rather than bombarding the listener with a thick wall of noise. Deathwalker wields these riffs as would a spreader of plague in human patience, allowing for the symptoms of sorrow to bloom strong in the mind of the listener, in which said melodies stick to the brain like vicious mud. Also, the allowance for a more sparring use of guitar lines has given the bass far more room to breathe on its own noxious facility. An excellent example of this would be Mournful Blood Spills Drips from My Sorrowful Portrait, where towards the end of the song the bass carries the main melody, slipping from its usual shadowing of the guitar and stepping out separately in its own wallowing waltz of woe. Now the drumming is also very interesting in its display, for a more reverse assault cymbal and hi-hat crashes that further punctuate the guitar melodies and assist in creating a gloomy atmosphere. This style of drumming, again, allows the rest of the mix to breathe and does not fall prey to the trap of losing most said mix with a barrage of blast beats. They're there because that is the norm for the genre. Deathwalker's vocals, on the other hand, I will admit, are more typical for this style of black metal, of course, but they do not fail to disappoint at all, with their earnest ranks of bile, laden with echoes of anguish from dungeons long forgotten. It is choices like these that separate, in my opinion, Nihil Invocation from its contemporaries. Instead of aiming for the same mold of sheer dissonant, violent display of noise and tempo, Deathwalker has understood where his weaknesses lie, in technical proficiency and relied on his intuitive talent for superlative song composition. Each track on this album feels memorable and revolves around keystones, whether they be riffs, drum patterns, or bass line. They're repeated just enough that the songs remain in the mind past the initial exposure to the listener. Whilst this method of song construction may be more typical in the traditional genres of metal, they still have ties to hard rock composition. Raw black metal typically is strayed away from this kind of composition, and it's kind of refreshing to see this conventional and unconventional brought together seamlessly here. Standout tracks in this phenomenal majestic, The Agony That Rots Beyond, that opens with a swaggering riff full of vampiric pomp that culminates in a crescendo of blast beats before dying in the throes of bass line adrift. Alone in its final tune, Stange Ones Voicing Sorrows in My Dreams is a haunting acoustic instrumental, barely a minute in length, it really does much to add to the variety of the release, and the harmonious, clean vocals are downright ridden with hideous anguish. From Fog Below a Setting Sun, I would say, is the album's longest piece, and it opens with a grievous melody of lamentable tragedy that lulls the listener into a trance state, only to be broken as the song fades into nothingness. So without further ado, let's check out From Below a Setting Sun right here on the channel. are back, guys. Holy fuck. What? Just fucking great, man. Fucking great shit. Lovecraft or Smith themselves would have little to complain of regarding the path of Deathwalker has pursued both aesthetically and lyrically with the track's title, such as Hateful Force of Unseen Landscapes. It is impossible not to conjure thoughts of unnameable horrors that the weird horror writers brought to life almost a century past. Nihil Invocation has, for the majority of its life, always taken a strong orthodox view on the visual side of the project, and the album is no different here. With Deathwalker himself proudly emblazoned upon the cover, rancid claws upon the skull, leering tongue astray, and empty eye ablaze with endless maelstorms of fury, the old photocopied visages of the 90s reborn anew, another chapter of nihilism summoned forth once again. In morbid conclusion, Stange Ones Voicing Sorrow in my dreams is the total culmination of all Deathwalker has portrayed since Nihil Invocation's inception. A meandering lost spirit of desolate elimination, Stange Ones Voicing My Sorrow Dreams is a dark piece of raw black metal that stands apart from all its contemporaries. Simple as that. It's loved so much for its simple, slow, and outright depressing atmosphere that dares the listener to reach deep down into the bleak depths below. Anyone searching for a raw black metal sound that relies less on walls of white noise and aggressive drumming, look no further than this album right here. You won't be disappointed. The whispers of things strange beckon amongst the shattered remains of land, swallowed whole by the abyss, and only those of equally shattered minds really will beseech their demands, lest they too are embedded by the grand mauve shadow. And overall, guys, this album, I'm going to say, easily gets an 8 out of 10 for me. And that's going to be pretty much it for this album review. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe, turn all notifications on, because I will be doing my best to start making more content like this for you guys on the channel. If you want to join Chaos's Discord server, you can find it down in the link in the descriptions below. You can follow me or him on Instagram. Those will also be in the links. My Discord account got disabled, but I really don't give a fuck. I'll see you in the next one, guys. Hope you enjoyed, and have yourselves a fucking good one.